For the first Sunday in April, you've found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda today, it was Sine Die. The General Assembly has gone home. We'll try and break it down for you. Transit is the top item. And at City Hall in Atlanta, Kasim Reed's credit cards could come back to haunt him. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us on this April 1st. It's Easter Sunday. And we have dueling motifs today because it's Easter Sunday and April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So generally I would be cynical and land on the April Fool's Day side, but no, I don't think so, because I think the session of the General Assembly that just concluded was extremely productive and a tribute to Governor Nathan Deal, his last session as governor of this state. And I think we should begin by the dullest of subjects, the funding of education.
Okay.
It's about 50% of the state budget. And Governor Deal this last week pulled a rabbit out of a hat, changed the revenue estimate, and is able to fully fund classroom education, K through 12, under the old Quality Basic Education Act. Democrats have been screaming about this since 2002, and now here it is,
done,
fully funded. I don't know what that means. I think it means, like, what do you think, $10 million for Fulton County, $10 million for DeKalb County?
Right.
Well,
it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It's the first time since 2002 that it's been fully funded by the state. So that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, and the local school systems can prioritize.
Well,
and Theron, the governor left a little bit of a warning there, though. He said, because you remember, he wanted to redo the whole education formula.
right.
And the legislature wouldn't go along with him, a couple of study committees. And the governor, who's out the door now, well, not quite, you know, he won't have a session. The governor said the next governor needs to take this up.
Yeah, and I mean, Governor Deal, this is going to be a part of his legacy of great things that he's been able to do for the state of Georgia. But one of the things that was so really interesting about this is that Democrats, as you pointed out, have been calling on the governor to do this his entire term. And I remember front and center during the governor's race between Jason Carter and Governor Deal, this was really the sort of the thing that Jason Carter ran on. But one of the things that was so, I think, a good show of bipartisanship is that Jason Carter took to Twitter this week and congratulated the governor and thanked him for doing it. And then Chris Riley, the governor's chief of staff, responded back and basically said, thank you for acknowledging that the governor's doing this. And so I think this is not only great for students and educators, but this is great for our workforce, because now we're going to keep our teachers. We're going to make sure we expand K through 12 education.
Thank you. I think the biggest impact will be on teachers.
Yes.
Now, the other major accomplishment of the General Assembly.
Well, let me just add to that, though. The good news was we had new revenue figures, so we could do this.
The economy's humming.
That's exactly right, and I think that was a good analysis. And just as a footnote to the viewers, we have $1.2 billion more in this budget this year than we did last year because of the revenue that's coming in.
And that's all a good thing, because we had to strip so much from the budget during that great recession that was brought on.
Well, you know, that's true, and I like to bring this up. When you had Republican leadership at the state capitol, we went through the Great Recession without any tax increases.
But cutting things
we did
terribly.
cut. Yes, we did cut. But we proved that we could cut and still function.
And we came back.
Yeah. But, you know, we just had, fourth quarter economic growth of 2.9%, almost 3%. So I think that's where Governor Deal was able to look at the projections and adjust the budget. The other big accomplishment was the passage of the transit bill. It was a last-minute item. Thursday night, went right down almost to midnight. Between the House and the Senate. But effectively, Phil, we're going to have one central transit planning agency.
That's exactly right. It's called the ATL, and they were able to work out the governance. They were able to fold in Greta, GRTA, which has been the lead dog in transportation administratively, into this plan. And so
BRT.
That's right. And so I think that we're going to finally get some transit money. And the governor really helped us earlier in the week by announcing we've got some bond money here because of this new revenue that we're talking about.
$100 million.
Right.
And so that set the stage for, as you say, it went down to the last minute, but it set the stage for passage. Now, there is an exemption for our Cobb County folks. The way I understand it, they are allowed to set up a commission, and then they can figure out a transit zone in Cobb County if they want to do that.
And it also allows Gwinnett County to vote to join MARTA.
Yeah.
Yes, and
This
they
year.
plan to
This
vote
on the
this
ballot.
year.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
Yeah.
No, but in the end, it's going to come down to 13 counties and their individual votes. So we'll have an umbrella agency
Yes.
to do the master planning for the metro area, but it's still up to 13 different counties to decide how they want to do it. And that could be complicated.
And you also want to see are all of these 13 counties going to have skin in the game and start having some money in funding this?
Right.
And and one of the things that we must congratulate the Georgia legislature for coming together and doing this is that make sure that at a time DeKalb, Clayton, Fulton, and Atlanta, how are we now going to operate when they have for 50 years been paying into this transit center? But I think also MARTA is still able to do its work, continue to be an efficient authority, and I think that was a big accomplishment as well.
Let me stay right there with you, Theron. Other bills of note, it's so hard to compress everything they did, and we don't really know everything they did. We won't know for a few days, really. But other things like the adoption bill failed.
Yep.
So a lot of children are not going to be adopted because of the thick-headedness of the legislature.
No, that's not
and
true at all.
religious-based adoption agencies won't come in.
And a lot of children will be adopted because they didn't put that discriminatory language in.
Well, Dick's right. There were agencies that wanted to come in, and now they won't.
Well, I knew there was going to be a little spin to that, but look, at the end of the day, it was all about loving homes and loving families, being able to adopt these children. Another bill that did not pass, and I know Phil was very disappointed in this, was Senate Bill 452. Which is a very, I think, discriminatory immigration bill.
Common sense immigration bill.
Well, not common sense. It was really.
Wait a minute, Theron. It was for coordinating.
No.
Tell the viewers what the bill did.
It would have basically continued to make us like Arizona and other places that went through a tough time where you basically start criminalizing immigrants and illegal immigrants. It was this big debate between.
True.
Don't cut me off.
Not true.
It was this big debate between felons and misdemeanors. And so I want to congratulate and thank the legislature.
If they're crooks, they got to go back.
I want to make sure that we did not pass that, and that was a big bill that was defeated.
Well, what Theron didn't say is that these are just criminal aliens, where the local police. No, it specified crimes. It didn't specify the landscapers or anything like that. And it would have been more coordination between local and feds. And it's a shame. In fact, it wasn't. By the way, the Capitol was crawling with these illegal alien, demonstrators. But it was actually the no. That's a vicious. That's a vicious charge.
I was there.
Listen, they were all there demonstrating with signs.
So Alexis
Yes.
and Phil too. You're going to get a property tax break in Fulton County. There's a cap now. Despite the fact the tax assessor can't get it all straight, your taxes can't go up more than 3% year to year, is the way I understand it, right?
Right. And, well, with that cap, so that'll be interesting to see how they do that. But luckily, the property values are increasing, so that will make it.
And that was Representative Beth Beskin of Atlanta, the Republican who did that, and actually worked with Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms.
And then another interesting source of revenue. For example, Senator Fran Miller passed a bill that will give scholarship money, college scholarship money, to non-hope, right? To families below the income scale, below the median income scale. And one of the ways they might fund it is they passed a tax on online purchases.
Yes.
Interesting, huh?
That was a big legislative win for the taxes on internet sales.
And you got President Trump going after Amazon, but that's another story.
And because Amazon has already been paying taxes.
They do pay. Amazon does
I know.
Yeah, just for the viewers.
Anyway, Georgia gets a new source of revenue, also known as a tax. Okay, we won't really know everything the General Assembly did, but I would just have to say, wrapping up, you fix education, you fix transit, you've had a pretty good session.
Pretty good session.
So when we come back, it's time for some real controversy. Kasim Reed spent more on his city credit card last year than he earned in salary. It's an astounding story. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
As I mentioned, it's almost impossible in one broadcast so quickly to encapsulate everything the General Assembly did over the last 3 months, but we can say that a distracted driving bill passed, which means, I guess, that, for example, some of us call each other on the way in to tape our broadcast. we have to use hands-free devices.
That's
Right.
exactly right. Yeah.
If I'm caught holding my phone, I get fined, right?
You can get a ticket.
I think it's
That's right.
$150.
That's exactly right. And you know, a shout out to Representative John Meadows of Marietta, because when the session started, we didn't know this was going to have any legs whatsoever, and it caught on and it passed.
Well, we already have laws against distracted driving. Why do they need new laws? But anyway, let's turn our attention to City Hall, where the HAC reported this week, after getting kind of stonewalled on their request, they finally got the credit card charges for Kasim Reed,
City credit card.
city credit card, over the last 3 years. They didn't get the documentation. And remember, the GBI is investigating the city for slow walking the release of records. But the credit card records show that Kasim Reed spent more than $300,000 the last 3 years using his city credit card. The bulk of that money went to airplanes, hotels, and rather lavish meals. Now, you say lavish because if it's dinner for 4, it's lavish. If it was dinner for 8, not so lavish.
Yeah.
So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that.
Right.
But I do want to see the documentation. And it's the guy lived like a sultan of an Arab emirate.
Well,
He went to some great places all over the world just in the last year. And I'd like to see the total bill on that trip to our sister city of Cape Town, because we know the airfare was $68,000. Then you add in Kasim Reed's charges for hotels and meals. Wow. I mean, it's good to be the mayor of Atlanta if you like to travel.
Well,
Who gets his frequent flyer points? Defend it, Theron.
no.
Look, I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to repeat what was in the article. I think the mayor, released checks that were published. He repaid upwards to $30,000+ of things that he thought that he should reimburse.
That's right.
Reimburse cities. So let's make sure we don't.
$30,000 over 3 years.
Make sure we don't leave that out. But at the end of the day, I think that also the mayor wants to continue to try to have a career in the city, and he may decide to run one day. So our very own Jeff Dickerson was his spokesperson and sort of said that the mayor wanted to get out in front of this and repay this to the city. But again, I think that what's Mayor Bottom's doing going forward is that she said, listen, she's going to continue to use this card for legitimate city business. And I think that as these documents continue to come out, majority of the charges that were made by Mayor Reed would be legitimate. And
Wouldn't you agree, Theron, wouldn't you agree, though, that he started hustling and releasing all of this stuff because he knew the Atlanta paper was trying to get all this information, so he had some time to try to spin it. I love the one, though, where he, on his own city taxpayer-supported card, he gives $2,000 to the state Democratic Party.
Right, and in the process flew his brother up to New York for Hillary Clinton.
You don't use a city card. Remember Elaine Boyer of DeKalb County? You know, this is what got her in trouble and some jail time. You don't use that card for these type of purposes.
Vacation with her family.
Well, you don't use it to give money to a political
It looks
party.
like Kasim did sort of the same thing when he flew his brother up to Hillary's campaign announcement.
Well, I think that was one of the charges that he repaid. But the thing about the city of Atlanta and the mayor of the city of Atlanta says chief executive of an international city. And if he is flying on and doing things on behalf of the city, then the city should pay for it.
Well, but the city also has per diem. And as our own Jeff Dickerson said, it's a good thing that the mayor didn't. I don't know what Jeff meant, or if he was quoted out of context. But he said, it's a good thing the mayor didn't take his per diem, and he saved the taxpayers a lot of money. Really? What is the per diem for this city?
I had to laugh at that. I wish Jeff were here on the set.
But in all seriousness, Alexis, you've covered City Hall, you covered the county, you've done this. They can't withhold those records the way they have and delayed them the way they have.
Well, that may be an issue, particularly since there were emails that suggested that someone was saying you should slow walk this release, but that was with regard to the contractor issue. But I don't know if that is applied across the board or not. But in any case, that is not a good thing to do.
Well, the open records law is pretty basic here in the state of Georgia. You have to release these things, and they violated the release dates.
Actually, well, they did eventually
You
release
used to
it,
fight
though.
for that. I hope you continue to fight for the release of records.
Let me just step back and just tell you, I think the implications of this are quite serious. It's fun to joke about him being the Sultan. I mean, you know, he's living like a DeKalb County commissioner. We can make all kinds of jokes about this. But the fact is, I think there are serious implications because you've already got the GBI at City Hall, doing a criminal investigation of the open records mess. It's easy for a law enforcement agency now to say, oh, by the way, where are all those credit card records and where's the documentation? Elaine Boyer in DeKalb County went to federal prison for misuse of a government credit card, in that case a P card. I think Kasim, as we say, has got a lot of explaining to do, and I wonder if law enforcement is not going to get involved. I don't know.
One of the things that we also got to point out for our viewers are all of the documentation that was requested. These reporters and these news entities they received. And so there is some discrepancy about it being delayed, but ultimately I want the viewers to know that all of the records, I mean, these are countless amount of records that they requested, were all turned over to them. And so Phil wants us to believe that the timing is sort of the issue. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it was more importantly that all of the records that they got were turned over. The mayor produced his checks.
Why did he wait till now?
I don't think he can wait, Phil. He was no longer the mayor. So I think until you run for the office and you actually sit in the seat of the mayor, which you haven't done, I don't think we can really get in here about, talking about
well,
what
I think he could have done it while he was mayor. That doesn't make any sense at all. You can do your records while you're still mayor.
Well, yeah, and they ought to be transparent. And by the way,
but they were transparent. Everything was turned over, Dick.
But they hadn't been released.
But they released. I mean, what more information do they want to get?
I want to know who went to the $800 steak dinner.
So there you go. So you want to cherry pick the information.
You bet.
That's right. Okay, so let's just say that.
I want to know
but let's not act like the information was.
I want to know why he and the now mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and his PR spokesperson flew to Miami for a weekend. I want to know what they were doing. What was the economic development agency?
So you want transparency. I thought you wanted that.
They went to Miami for a conference.
All right, we got to get out. I would just say at the end of all this, speaking of high living, the DeKalb County Commission keeps its pay raise, goes into effect in January, 62% raise for the sultans and emirates in their part-time jobs in DeKalb County, Georgia.
Goodness.
When we return, the other big news of the week. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
So what are people talking about this week? I would say we're talking about the General Assembly. We're talking about Kasim Reed. But I think people out there were talking about 3 days of really moving funeral services for former Governor Zell Miller. That was an astounding sight and very moving. And Phil, 3 ex-presidents speaking at Peachtree Road United Methodist Church on behalf of Zell Miller.
That's right. I was there.
He was just a governor and a senator.
I was there. It was quite a tribute from all 3 presidents. In fact, they listed, and people ought to go on the internet, when he turned 70, Zell did a list of lessons that he had learned. And I love the one, and the crowd laughed, and you can just hear him say it. He said, "I don't like whiners. Don't be a whiner."
It was a very, very moving experience. Governor Deal was at the monument at the memorial at the state capitol. Governor Deal was quite touched and in tears. And
I have to say this, the 3 presidents had a common theme, and that is that Zell worked across party lines. He was obviously a Democrat.
He even actually crossed them.
Well, he did. He stayed a Democrat, but us conservatives and Republicans loved him since the year 2000 because he made an odyssey over to the political right. But all 3 presidents made the point that, Zell Miller could work across party lines to get things done, and of course we all honor him for what he did by being the father of the Hope Scholarship.
Yeah, and how often do you have a fellow like Zell Miller who stomped Johnny Isakson in the governor's race in 1990, and Johnny Isakson's there singing his praises.
That's right.
Because Zell had named him to chair the State Board of Education.
That's right. And one other point that I forgot to mention when we discussed it last week was that he actually appointed the first woman to the Georgia Supreme Court by appointing Leah Sears.
That's right.
And the first African American.
There's so many things he did that they seem common now, but at the time they were unusual. One other story that people are talking about, Phil, I'll leave it to you. The McIver trial, which I can't get enough of. It's just fascinating. It didn't go well for Tex McIver in his trial for allegedly murdering his wife.
Yes, let's remember that he's being charged with murder 1, felony murder, and a lot of people are wondering, has the DA, Paul Howard, overcharged him? Secondly, they're going to take a break next week.
Spring break.
Who's coming back? Jeff Dickerson, the former Georgia gang member, he'll be testifying about a supposed bribe. And then another PR guy, Bill Crane, will be, this will be very controversial. He was a spokesman for Tex MacGyver for a little while. He's going to be contradicting what MacGyver says, what happened that fateful night when he took that exit off the connector. Well,
it's an interesting trial because how married people manage their finances. This one is really interesting.
I'm sorry, I haven't really been paying attention.
You haven't been? Oh, it's just
I'm
so
not
good.
interested at all.
Well, and I learned a lot about handguns.
He was cash poor, is your point.
Yeah, he was cash poor, and she was not.
He was using her money.
Yeah, and in fact, she loaned him money.
That's right.
And he was on a strict payment schedule.
Oh, my.
How would you like to have a marriage like that?
And the loan had interest.
Oh, dear.
All right. One other piece of news that got overlooked, I want to stress it, if I can get my voice back, and that is the Georgia Ports Authority have started a mega rail terminal. Think about that.
Huh.
Thousands of trucks might be removed from our expressways. That's just astounding.
Well, it is, and that port is a real gem in Georgia's economy, and we've all talked about that. And the things that are going on there are fantastic. If people ought to just go down there and visit and take the tour. That study said it had a direct impact on what, 1 in 10 jobs in the state? Yes. Pretty remarkable. You just don't think about it. But this mega rail thing makes sense to me. Get the trucks off the highways, get them back on the rails. And Georgia has a great history of rail, and so does Atlanta. All right.
And then it changes the economy again.
Yeah, exactly. All right. When we come back, we're going to do winners and losers. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And we'll begin winners and losers with you, Philip.
Well, I tell you what, I'm wearing my Masters golf tournament tie, and that's going to be coming up next Thursday in Augusta. It's one of the hottest sports tickets around, and so, and of course, it has great economic impact over there. So that's a winner.
Go Tiger.
That's right. Tiger Woods is the man of the hour now. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Horace Orr American Legion Post 29 over in Marietta. A lot of folks don't know how to properly dispose of an old American flag. Well, let me tell you, they have got a crematorium over there. It's going to be dedicated on Saturday, April 7th. It's an Eagle Scout that had built it, Ethan Kleinrichard, and I think he is the winner for doing that. And so learn how to properly dispose and burn your American flag. And also, we lost a great Atlantan, John Sherman. He was a taxpayer watchdog, and he died this past week, head of the Fulton County Taxpayers Foundation.
That's right. Alexis, how about you?
Well, I want to note that Rita Jackson Samuels passed this week. She was a great civil rights activist and women's rights activist. She founded the Georgia Black Women's Coalition and Women Flying High for women in non-traditional careers, and she will be sorely missed. Also, Timmy Silver, who is a local political activist and great friend of our own Tom Houck. And in
fact, the Tom Houck Timmy Silver joint birthday party was a staple.
Annual must-do event, absolutely. Yeah. And then finally, Linda Brown died. She was the young girl in the Brown v. Board of Education decision that found schools desegregation.
My homegirl from Kansas.
That's right, exactly.
That's right. All right, you got anything else?
I think I'm going to leave it there.
Okay, all right, Darren.
Rita Samuels, I want to echo Alexis, a phenomenal woman who I had a chance to really know personally. I've only seen one woman in this state can check John Lewis, Joe Lowry, all in the same breath, and so definitely want to make her my winner. We're going to miss her. She was a great civil rights icon. And also I want to give a big shout out to all of the state legislators, but more importantly the spouses and the children of these state legislators. For 3 months they've been battling, going back and forth up and down the road. So just want to thank them, but again, to give a special shout out to Chairman Brandon Beach and Chairman Kevin Tanner for getting the transit bill passed. And then lastly, Michael Thurman did a great State of the County address in Stone Mountain. He talked a lot about infrastructure being his #1 project, and so definitely want to give him a big shout out. They had roughly over 400 people.
Minimum wage increase for county workers.
Exactly.
To $14.
Yep.
Hope the money's there.
Yep. Well, it'll be there, but he did a wonderful job talking about bringing the county together. So those are my winners for the week.
Well, we mentioned Zell Miller, who would be a winner in any broadcast, and we've already mentioned former Georgia gang members Tom Houck and Jeff Dickerson. So let's add a third, Bill Shipp.
That's right.
who was Zell's foe, if you will, but not really.
Let's add a fourth, Megan Hansen, who was on the program. She passed the brunch bill, you know, where we can get served earlier. Yeah, mimosas
So
and
I
Bloody
want to give a
Marys.
shout out to Bill Shipp,
Yes.
the longtime curmudgeon on this broadcast. I know that Zell's passing was difficult for Bill, but it just reminds me of those days when there were dueling columnists and politicians and opinions. I will second John Sherman. He really knew his stuff on taxes. And the Braves are open. The Braves won their opener.
How about that?
The Braves won on Thursday night. How about that? And so things are good with the world. We will see you next week on the Georgia Gang. And remember to follow us on Facebook and YouTube.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.